Hey guys, I'm Layla. We're in Raid Shadow Legends. We're going to be reading the lore story for Stokk the Broken. Brand new legendary champ that came out that happens to be a fragment fusion during the Thanksgiving season of 2024. So I have not checked out his lore. He's brand new. I was waiting to do this live with you, so let's read it together. Stokk was born among the Night Skewers, a tribe of cave-dwelling Ogren living beneath the Dusk Hills. He left them to seek fame and fortune and help, arriving in Delanos confused, but well-meaning. He did not realize he had arrived during a time when hatred of Ogren was much across Anhel. The rise of the Galapact, its promise of vengeance, was stoking much fear and anger. Within a few days of arriving, having done little more than explore the city, he was captured by a city patrolman and accused of being a Galan spy, frightening the populace and of inciting disorder. He was held captive, beaten, and deprived of light and fresh air by the Delanos officials, and regularly placed in the stocks in public to show off what the burghers claimed was their effective defense against Galan infiltrators. After Stokk spent over a year languishing in captivity, Galan invaders stormed Delanos and found him on public display. After the Galans determined Stokk was ignorant and harmless, a vengeful ogre and alchemist called Vizug the Noxious claimed him. Seeing that Stokk was a member of the Night Skewers, and thus a skulking weakling in Vizug's eyes, and that he had been foolish enough to have been captured by the League, Vizug treated him as little more than a heap of flesh to experiment on. Stokk, desperate to accept, agreed to serve Vizug's living laboratory. Advances in his Vengefire alchemy and the grievous challenges of the Galan War led Vizug to envision a whole new use for his toxic compound, turning fanatical warriors, or condemned criminals, into living weapons. By having volatile compounds of fire and acid imbued into their own flesh, such a warrior could not be disarmed or safely captured. However, to endure the agony of being a living bomb on the verge of detonation, Stokk and the other prototype bioweapons had to be drugged into stupefying anesthetic compounds. This left them too passive and delirious to be effective warriors, so Vizug gave them additional tinctures to induce rage and frenzy. After many failed attempts, he found a balance that created raving, fearless warriors who felt no pain. Galan commanders were happy to use Vizug's alchemic compounds on the enemy, but balked at the cruel extremities of making their own soldiers into disposable weapons. As the invasion faltered and the Galans were pushed back, however, one by one, they agreed to use any means necessary, and Stokk was pushed into battle for the first time. He was a whirlwind of frenzied energy, the elixirs in his system making it implacable and unreasoning. Soldiers were melted and burned alive with their armor by caustic fluids no amount of water could neutralize, their screams drowning out Stokk's own wild, incoherent battle cries. The fear and chaos Stokk sowed allowed other Galan warriors time to regroup, heal their wounds, and maneuver into advantageous positions. As soon as Stokk was exhausted and his reserves of chemical temporarily depleted, they searched forward to collect him and shatter the disorganized and traumatized remnants of the enemy. The free city of Kladovic was destroyed after Stokk was smuggled into the city by night and set loose. Spewing toxins and burning acid, he poisoned half the city and set fire to scores of buildings, allowing the Galan forces beyond the walls to storm the city with ease. Stokk was eventually captured when Talarian League forces deployed a specially trained squadron equipped with magically protective suits, long-catching poles, and corrosion-resistant cages. Within the drugs that kept him numb, Stokk suffered horribly at the hands of the Talarians, who experimented on him in turn and pried from many of Vizug's secrets of toxic alchemy. Once they extracted all they could from Stokk, the League sent him back to attack Vizug's camp in an act of cruel, vengeful irony. Stokk was on the verge of finally losing control of the raging, alchemical storm within him, and, as Vizug's guards desperately tried to stop him, he warped and bloated with poisonous fumes and searing acid, about to explode and surely cause catastrophic harm and damage. Moments before he would detonate, however, the Arbiter appeared in a flash to absorb the wretched Stokk into one of her shards. She had little love for Vizug, whose callous experimentation had created Stokk, but she could not allow the terribly unfortunate Stokk to be destroyed and forever lost. Partly, she was driven by pity, to save Stokk and perhaps one day reverse his explosive decline. But she was also motivated by sheer practicality. If Stokk had been made irrevocably into a living weapon, and it was causing the verge of self-destruction, it should be she, and no other, who should have the option to deploy him if absolutely necessary. Okay. I thought this story was pretty good. It was interesting. Poor Stokk. So he gets captured, he gets experimented on, he becomes tortured, and then we end up having him, who's basically like a living biological weapon. And then we have Arbiter, who shows up in the end to contain him. And basically she says if anyone's going to use him as a weapon, it's going to be her. I think that's an interesting turn of events, right? Because it makes you wonder, like we know Arbiter's supposed to be this hero, but she collects him for the greater good to have like a bioweapon to use at her disposal. It's an interesting kind of turn of events. I would love to know what you guys think for the story for Stokk the Broken. Drop me a comment down below, and thanks for watching.